Hello, and welcome to another Recovering Cinderella podcast, where we share real stories of hope, inspiration, and advice from women who have made it through divorce for women going through it. My name is Keri Olson. I'm the host, and I'm also the original Recovering Cinderella. Whenever we get married, we all think it's a fairy tale. No one gets married thinking it's going to end in divorce. And yet every year, over 50% of women around the world find themselves in divorce. So today we are going to share another story of overcoming divorce and in some seemingly insurmountable odds that Carla faced, and where she is today and how she's rebuilt her life after divorce. So I'd like to introduce Carla from Michigan. Carla, why don't you tell us in your own words about your divorce story?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Keri. Yes, I had a long marriage. I was married in Florida and I was married for 20 years. And as you said, when we get married, we think it's for life, right? And I was alone. I was far away from my family. My family lives in another country. And I was struggling with the new marriage, adapting to life as a married woman, as an immigrant in a different place, not knowing anybody. So initially, it was a big struggle. And when I talked about it with family and things like that, they say, "Oh, it's normal. Every couple struggles in the beginning and blah, blah, blah. That's how it is. You're going to be okay." So I kind of started viewing the things that were wrong as normal. And so I was living the marriage like that, noticing some things that were not supposed to be, but being told that it was normal, it's okay, that's what marriage is, blah, blah, blah. So I just stayed married for a long time.
So when you say you were noticing things that were not normal, do you feel comfortable talking about what those were?
There was, I come from a very loving family. And in my marriage, there was no demonstration of affection. And when I started to read about it, trying to understand, I was reading books about marriage and things like that and trying to understand. And they say people love different ways. So how they show love is different. So
Right.
I was reading magazines, I was reading books, just trying to understand and make the marriage work. And it was just something missing. First of all, it was emotional distancing. Then there was manipulation. Then there was problems with trust and financial issues and
Okay.
trusting with financial issues. So it was several things that were adding and making the marriage very difficult. And all along, some people telling me, "Oh, that's what it is, deal with it, blah, blah, blah." So I was trying to deal with it, but it was difficult. I wasn't happy. I was feeling alone. When you go to bed with somebody and you still feel alone,
Yes.
that's a red flag.
And that's not really what marriage is supposed to be, right? You're supposed to
Right.
be
And
with.
if people are away, not living your reality and telling you that that's normal, maybe you should question that and rethink that. That is not normal to have somebody in your life, sleep with somebody, have a partner, and feel alone all the time. That's not normal. That's not
So,
acceptable.
so how many you were married 20 years? Did you have kids?
Yes, we had two kids,
Okay.
a girl and a boy. My daughter is now 22 and she is serving in the Air Force.
Oh, congratulations. Proud
Thank
mom. You should be
you.
very proud.
Yes, and she got married too to a wonderful guy.
Aw.
And I have a son, and he's almost 15. He's going to high school, and he loves sports. He got into wrestling, and then he got into football, and he's a very active young boy. So that's fine. That's good.
Congratulations, Mama. Okay, so you were married for 20 years. You knew things weren't really the way they were supposed to be. Would you say you were mostly unhappy or happy, or I mean, there's ups and
I
downs
was
with every marriage.
very unhappy, Keri. I was very unhappy. I was extremely unhappy. And there was a time that I told myself, that's what life is. That's what a marriage is. So deal with it. Accept your unhappiness. So I started gaining weight. I kind of started being the female version of my ex. Like I started kind of looking like him in a way, you
Mhm.
know. I thought that I was kind of deleting myself so I could make it work. Trying to be like him to make it work.
It's That's so common because I think that for myself and other women that I've talked to, we tend as women to overcompensate to make someone else happy. We from a very early age we learn to make other people happy, and we tend to put other people's needs and wants ahead of our own. And so, in my online class that I released last year, one of the exercises was to ask women what they like. Because if you talk to a woman who's been married for a long time, who perhaps was in a very unhappy marriage, and you ask her what she likes to do, she'll often say something like, "Oh, well, John played golf, so I learned how to play golf." Or, Bob bowled. We started bowling or tennis or whatever. And the first response, it's so strange, but it's so true. Is their first response is usually something about what their ex liked to do that they started doing because he liked to do it. And so it's very common, and it's also very common when you're unhappy to gain weight, and we're emotional, and so everything that you went through, I think a lot of women out there can relate to. So what was your kind of defining moment for you in your divorce? Like what was it that made you all of a sudden say, okay, I'm out. This isn't the way it's supposed to be.
There were a few things that happened before it came that moment that was like, that's it. Um, First of all, I decided that I didn't like the person I was becoming and the mother I was becoming. Because when you have a very difficult or unhappy or unsatisfying relationship with your spouse, that kind of reflects into the children. So I first noticed that me as a mother was becoming very serious, forgetting how to laugh, forgetting how to have fun with them, forgetting how to take them out and have fun with them. Because he was never there, my ex was never there to go with us. So I was becoming like him and not doing anything. So first of all, I decided, okay, I want my children to be happy and to like the home that they live in. So I started doing things with them. Like, I lived in Florida, so beach was very easy. We would go to the beach all the time. Another thing is when my children didn't want to go with me, then I would go by myself. And I noticed that many women don't like to do anything by themselves. But my ex was not there with me, so I was like, I'm going. So I started doing hiking and I started doing kayaking. That to bring my joy of living back, to reflect in my home and to reflect in my children. So they would have a good environment at home, the best environment possible. And after that, even though we were trying very hard to make things work, you know, it takes two to tango.
Yes.
And the ex was not putting any effort into it. He was still emotionally absent and a lot of time physically absent. He would go out all the time with friends, and me and my kids would be alone. So I decided to try to work on the marriage, still feeling responsible for the marriage to work. So I decided to take us on a little vacation. You know, I had gotten a little extra money from taxes return, and even though my ex never took us anywhere, so I was like, I'll pay for it. Let's go. A little vacation. So we went to a little vacation, and we went to the West Coast in Florida for the first time. And when we got to the hotel, my son was about 7 and my daughter was about 13. And when we got to the hotel, I asked my ex, why don't you go to the pool with them while I fix the room and everything, and then we go take care of dinner. And he just didn't want to go. He wanted to stay in the room watching TV.
Hmm.
And the kids were crazy to go to the pool. They were excited that they had a pool to go to. And he wasn't interested in going in our little vacation. And then my daughter turns to me, she's 13. My daughter turns to me and she said, Mom, what are you still doing with Dad? And I was like, what? And she was saying that he didn't want to do stuff with them, and she didn't want me to insist with him anymore. And she was like, what are you still doing with him, Mom?
That had to be just like a slap in the face when your 13-year-old daughter can see that things aren't right.
Yeah, and you think you were doing the right thing because you think you were staying in the marriage for the sake of the children, to make them happy. And she turns to me and she said, Mom, you're still young. Do something now before it's too late. Be happy, Mom. He's not happy. You are not happy. You need to be happy, Mom. So that was my turning point. That was my turning point. From then on, I started planning what to do financially, planning how to get a divorce, researching what could I do, what I could not do. And that was my turning.
I think that's really, really important because when women ask me, should I get a divorce or shouldn't I get a divorce? I always say, no one can tell you when it's time to get a divorce. If you feel that it's the right thing to do, you'll know, and you'll hit a point where you know absolutely that this is the right choice for you. And the fact that you planned, like you took time to figure it out. This wasn't, and I think a lot of women do that. They research what their options are. They, they may not have the resources that they need, and it's important to have a plan if you can. If you're not in a safe situation, that's different. But if you can, take the time to make a plan. So what did you decide? What was your plan? What was your exit plan?
Well, first of all, I had to do my divorce by myself. I contacted lawyers and they told me what kind of fees they needed up front. And I was like, I don't have that. And then the lawyers will be like, but can't you ask your parents? And I was like, well, I was thinking, first of all, I said no, because first of all, I was thinking they are in another country. Second of all, they don't support divorce. I come from a Christian family. I was raised to suck it up, buttercup, you know, stay with it for the rest of your life. So I knew that was not an option. So I decided to do the divorce myself. After the research and everything, I filled out the papers. I did all the paperwork, and I told them that I was getting a divorce. And I was looking for options about housing and things like that. But I told him I because he was not leaving the house.
So he wouldn't leave.
No, he said the house was his. He would never leave the house. You know. So I was like, okay, so I will find an apartment and I will take the kids with me. So that was the initial plan, and the ended up finding another job in Michigan.
So you were in Florida and you found a job in Michigan.
So I divorced him. I applied for another job that paid better in Michigan, which has a more affordable housing,
Hmm.
not an apartment anymore. I would be able to afford a house. So I moved. First, I rented a townhouse in Michigan. And after 1 year, I was able to buy my own house.
Yay! Wasn't that a great
Oh,
feeling when you bought a
oh
house for
my
yourself?
God.
And
Oh my gosh. This is one of the things that I think women need to share more. You know, we think that I had a big fear of doing things on my own. I didn't trust myself. I didn't have a lot of self confidence that I could do it on my own, you know. But because I was out of options and I didn't have a family to move into their house until I, figure things out financially, I didn't have that option. So I just took it off. I just went. And it's amazing that what we can do when we believe,
that is
what we can do when we need to.
that is so powerful because I think I felt that way and I've been divorced twice. I did both of my divorces myself. Totally do not recommend that. It was a disaster, but I did it too. And sometimes necessity requires that you do what you have to do.
Mhm.
But I think that my self-esteem was very low, and you get to that point where you're like, you know, is it better to stay in a bad situation because I'm comfortable there and I know it, because it's really scary out there, and can I do it by myself, and what's going to happen? And what I know, and I think what you've found out and other women have found out is, wow, I have it inside me to do whatever and to create big dreams. And you packed up. Did you know anybody in Michigan when you packed up and went there?
Nobody at all. Nobody at all. And I just packed up and left. Thank God the company that hired me paid for the move. That was very, very helpful. But it was a fresh start, but it was also the only way I had at the time to achieve financial independence and to give a home not just for my two children, but for my two dogs.
Who we've heard.
Yes, I think you just heard.
They want to be part of the interview too. So
Yes, so it was a struggle. It was a struggle, and it's very difficult. And we don't believe in ourselves in the beginning. We don't think we can do it, and we do have this mentality that a woman needs a man. And it's very difficult to break through and see that yes, I can work. Yes, I can pay my bills on my own. Yes, I can take care of the maintenance of my own car. Yes, I can call a maintenance guy to fix something in the house. Yes, I can try to fix the stuff myself. I bought my own little set of tools for the first time. My first screwdriver, my first hammer, and the first time I hang curtains on the wall, my dog got himself in the curtain and everything fell off of him. But learning. It was a learning experience. So it is empowering after being dependent for so long. You live in the shadow of somebody. You were told that that's how it's done. You live in the shadow. As you said, women are raised to please. So we are catering to the man. We cook what they like. We have the friends that they want. We have the hobbies that they like. And it's not that this is completely wrong, but one very powerful thing that happened after I divorced was not just to find my own things and cook my own food the way I like, my salads and stuff like that, but also to realize that even if you find a man again in your life, you don't go back to the mentality anymore.
You don't lose yourself, because I think
Lose
what you're
yourself.
describing is finding yourself again and who you were in your own identity, separate from your ex. And once you find that, you don't want to let it go. You're not, it's hard pressed to find that identity and your independence and your own sense of self. And I think when women take the time to find that, and instead of jumping into another relationship right after a divorce, which is a natural thing because you want to feel validated, but when you take that time to find yourself, then later when you do find another relationship, you're in a healthier place and you attract somebody who's in a healthier place. You know, you're confident, you're independent, and you're not gonna go back to who you were, to your point. So how many years has it been since your divorce?
It's been since 2014, so it's almost 6 years.
So what's the best part of your new life now?
It's to believe that I can do it. It's to be financially independent. It's to know that I can pay my own bills. That even if you have somebody else in your life, and I have somebody else in my life now, it's a partnership. It's not somebody that eats your head and works, like that. No, as you were just saying, you rediscover your identity, you get to know yourself again, and then you bring that to the new relationship. And sometimes there is compromise. It's not all about him. It's about compromise. Oh, you do this, okay. We do this like this now, and next time we do the other way. It's always a compromise. And that feeds your self-esteem because you do not delete yourself anymore. You are you, and you can stand on your own. And you
That's
can have your own opinions about everything. And you don't have to agree with anyone about stuff, you know?
So what advice would you give to somebody looking back that you wish you had known when you were going through your divorce? What advice would you give somebody now that's going through it?
You are stronger than you think. You are way more powerful than you think. And you do not need a king to stand on your own. You can stand on your own.
That's awesome advice. Thank you. Is there anything else about your story that you want to share? I mean, how are you said your kids are one's grown out of the house and married and the other one's in high school. What do you think? Because a lot of women stay for the kids. I know I stayed longer than I should have for my kids because you think it's the right thing to do. And obviously your daughter was a turning point. But where are they now and how do they feel about everything that's happened?
I think they have become my source of strength. Because when I was going through everything, first of all, I was staying because of them in a bad relationship. And right now, they are my source of strength. And feels like such a victory. Because when I was going through divorce, some people in my family and some Christian friends that I have were treating me like divorced woman from the 50s, like you were going crazy, you were irresponsible, you are now a man eater, and you're going to destroy the lives of your children. And I was already dealing with so much change, and I was scared of so many things. And having that thrown at me was like, wow, you don't know me, you know? So to see that they have become and they are becoming good people, they are, they have strong opinions, but uh, they are not drama people. They learned to express their opinions without yelling, without drama, without arguments. They have become productive. They are involved in the community. They are involved in school. My daughter has this strong sense of protection of the family and protection of the friends. And my son has this same strong feeling of protection. There is the story, even a boy in school, when we moved to Michigan, he was bullied in the first year. So when he went to middle school, when he started wrestling, and he grew stronger, and his posture was stronger. And when we moved here, he was chubby, and when he started wrestling, he wasn't chubby anymore, and he grew really tall. So I like this story that one day I found a penny in his pocket, and I asked what was that, because he usually doesn't take money to school. And he said that was payment. One of the boys that were bullied in school paid him 1 penny a week for protection. So, so my son would walk with him in the school and nobody would bother him. So that filled my heart with pride. They have this strong sense of fairness and justice and protection of the vulnerable. And I love this about them. I totally love this about them. So all the people that say that when you get a divorce, you are destroying your kids' lives, they are going to be not adjusted citizens and things like that, that is just not true. You know, you have to believe also that even as a Christian, you deserve to be happy. There was a turning point when a friend of mine that is Christian, she told me, when I was hearing all these negative things about women that get divorced, she told me, Carla, do you think God that loves you so much wants you to be unhappy for the rest of your life? And that was the first time that a Christian told me that I, Carla, deserved to be happy.
That is incredibly just heartwarming. You know, I'm a Christian as well, and I think that women need to hear when they're going through a divorce that God still loves them. God, you still have God's love. You know, everybody's a sinner, and I think that's a strong message that women need to hear, because a lot of Christians feel like if they get a divorce, then they can't go back to church, or they aren't loved by God, or they're out of God's grace, and I think it's powerful to understand that God still loves you. And being divorced doesn't change that. He loved murderers. He loved, rapists. He loved, we're all God's children, and we all, it is a sin, but we all sin. So thank you for bringing that up and talking about that, because I think that's really, really important. What do you think was the number one thing that helped you the most when you were going through your divorce?
The love for my children. Because I was mostly alone, right? Family, far away and didn't support the divorce concept, blah, blah, blah. So what was very important was a source of strength was my love for my children and wanting them to live in a healthy environment. Because I was working, and when it was time to go home, I didn't want to go home. My home environment was not healthy, was not happy. It was tense. There was extreme tense situations that would come out of drinking. And so going home didn't feel good to me. Home didn't feel like my refuge. So I wanted to change that for my children. I want my children to live in a happy home. And it was amazing that even though so many people tell you that divorce is bad for the children, when we moved to Michigan and it was just the three of us, they noticed. One day I was cooking dinner and the dog is walking around, and one of my kids just sat back and was like, wow, it's so peaceful here, Mom. And I smiled and that gave me a great sense of achievement because I went through everything, all the struggle to get out for that. And they noticed. They noticed. And many times we think that staying in an unhappy relationship for the children is a good option. But when you are unhappy, they notice. They feel. Even if you try to keep your arguments away from them, they feel the tension at the dinner table. They feel the tension between the father and the mother. Even if you are not saying a single word, they feel it. So after living years like that and going to a home where just the three of us and the dogs, and they feel, wow, it's peaceful here. You're like, darn it, why did I do this earlier? I have to believe more. We have to believe more that we deserve not just to be happy, but our children also deserve to be happy. And sometimes we are going to be happy with a cookie cutter family, father and mother and children in a suburban house. And sometimes it's going to be just mom and the children. Sometimes it's going to be dad and the children. And that is fine. Because at the end of the day is my house a safe place to go to? Is my house a feel-good place to go to? Am I happy to go home at the end of the day? If the answer is yes, you are doing good. If the answer is no, you need to change something.
That is great advice. And I can't thank you enough, Carla, for sharing your story today with all of the women out there that need to hear it, that are struggling themselves and thinking they can't do this on their own. And I think it's powerful to hear a story like yours of inspiration of everything that you went through and how you built this new life for you and your kids and your dogs. And you found that strength inside of you. And I think that strength is inside all of us. And I just greatly appreciate you taking the time today to share your story. And I know that the women out there that are listening really appreciate it too.
Oh, thank you, Keri, for listening to me too. I appreciate that.
So if you have your own Recovering Cinderella story and you would like to be on the Recovering Cinderella podcast, you can apply at recoveringcinderella.com. You can also find a link to join one of my facilitated support groups that help women connect with other women. And it's a guided support group to help you get through your divorce with other women who truly understand what you're going through. So you can apply for that at recoveringcinderella.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Recovering Cinderella. And I appreciate the women that take the time to tell their stories, because I know that somebody out there listening needs to hear that they can do it, that they're not alone, that there's somebody out there who has gone through it and has made it through. And hopefully, while I don't want, I never want people to think that I condone divorce and I'm promoting divorce. That's not the intention of this at all. It is all about being in a healthy place. And to Carla's point, having a home that you go home to and you're happy to be there, and you're in a good place and your kids are in a good place if you have kids. And so if you've made that decision on your own, then I want you to have the support to get through that decision and know that you're not alone. So have a great week, beautiful. And remember, your story doesn't end with your divorce. You're still writing it, and the next chapter is going to be even better than the last. Tune in next week for another Recovering Cinderella story.